Well, hello. How's it going? Yesterday, we're talking about warmer weather and cold brew. I thought, well, we should do the cold brew. So we're going to start off with some cold brew. Maybe we'll do a cold brew week. But I've got this ridiculousness here to show you and share with you some crazy brewing techniques here on the Coffee Q&A. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Coffee Q&A. You're doing this Coffee Q&A on the Coffee channel. We're here this live most Monday through Fridays. 10 a.m. Eastern, and we've got our brew tower. This is the Yama brew tower. And I know I've spoke about this brew tower in the past. And this is the brew tower this is one of the ones we actually used at our main shop for many, many years. Like 12 years we worked these. And as you can see, it's pretty cool. Like, it's a great looking unit. Now, I know at one point that I mentioned that there's another model. If you look in the description down below, there's a bunch of links that I've included. You can buy this yourself. This is like $470. It's gone up over the last 15 years, but it's still, relatively affordable for this kind of thing. But I also put a listing for a model called the OG, the OJI. OG is a Japanese brand of manufacturer that makes one that when I first saw it, like in the mid 2000s, I was like, oh my God, that is awesome. I need to have that. I think today it costs now about $2,900. And I got to tell you, it's like rosewood. It's like turned rosewood. It's got brass fittings. It's got like rope, twine to hold this big glass. Or I mean, it is like sex on wheels. If cold brew could be sex on wheels, the OG is sex on wheels. Like, I was like, God, I gotta have it. And I think back then it was like $2,500, and I was like, man, I need to get it. And I remember one year I saved up some money for this purchase. And I was like, I'm gonna go buy it. And I was at the Especially Coffee trade show, and I was on the way because I know the distributor in America, Jay Igami, out in San Francisco. And I've been telling Jay for the last couple of years, I'm like, man, I'm definitely going to buy one of those one day. And I'm walking down the aisle. Like, it had to be total, like, destiny, right? It's just total destiny. Naomi, how are you, man? Good to see you. Good to see you. Driving but listening. All right, well, just be careful. Be careful. Kent, good to see you. And I'm walking down the aisle, right? And I see this. There's a booth there from a company called Yama. Yama is actually, I believe Yama is a Japanese brand, but it's made in Taiwan, or maybe it's a Taiwanese brand. And I saw this, and I was like, what's going on with that, right? I was like, oh, I've never seen this before. Like, it looks like it functions like the OG. It doesn't look like it looks remotely similar, but when I tell you the OG is like sex on wheels, and I'm just like lusting after it. Like, I look at this and I saw this and I was like, well, this is like fuddy-duddy grandmother, right? I mean, like, yeah, it's just kind of fuddy-duddy, it's got turn legs, turn, yeah, it's like levels, it's nice looking. Like, most people that see this when they came to the shop, they were like impressed. They were like, whoa, that's awesome. And I'm like, I never say this to anyone, because they'll be like, well, they think it's awesome. So why say anything, right? Don't say anything. Yes, this, if you're never seen it before, this looks truly awesome. But when you've seen sex on wheels, it's not so awesome. Like imagine, like, if you've never seen like thigh-high patent leather pumps in bright red, in blood, sexy red, right? And PVC, sexy PVC. You'd think that most things is kind of sexy, but then you see that and you're like, well, maybe it's not so sexy, right? So this is, for most people, I think this looks very sexy. And to be honest, it does. It does. It does. But to compare, it's a little bit fuddy-duddy. A little bit fuddy-duddy. But let's look at review here, what components we have. It's really quite an interesting device. Some people call this Kyoto style Japanese. I just consider it Japanese style brewer. It's like Kyoto style. I don't even know what that means. Like, people have all kinds of labels for things, and I think it's just silly, right? Just silly. So we have this tower, and basically how it works, it's just a slow drip, right? So you've got this tower here. There's this big container that has uh, you put the water in here, and then there's a valve here that controls the drip. Actually, let me grab the camera, and I will see if I can make this a little bit more. Okay, here we go. We've got our big orb. This holds about 4 liters. If I fill it completely to the top, it's 4 liter capacity, right? So we will fill the 4 liters, and we will get about a gallon's worth of beautiful coffee gold when we're finished. Now here we've got a valve. This is a brass valve, and you just regulate the flow of the water through it. And how you do that is that you have to adjust the knob here. I'm going to turn it so that this will be fully open. That's fully closed, right? And we're going to adjust the flow rate to match what we want. And then here, the middle section has, this is where you put the coffee. You also put one of these ceramic filters at the bottom. And this is the filter. This actually works really well. It produces very clear coffee, even though this is the only thing. And it's just sitting there, right? If we look at this, it's just sitting in this orb. There's nothing really, like, that's the only seal. It's really quite surprising that it works. Now we've got this spiral here, and it looks fancy. Like, that looks cool. I have always wondered the efficacy of this spiral. I think it's supposed to do something for like oxidation, or I don't know what it's supposed to do. It looks cool. I don't know if it's absolutely necessary. I've never, I've never deleted it from the system, meaning that you could run like a hose. Like, I could put like a silicon hose from the nipple here and run it through the hole, right? There's a hole here, and then that would fall into our lower chamber. But I've never done that because it looks cool. It looks cool, and why people like it, right? So it is a pain in the butt to clean, right? If you want to make sure that when you finish using the brewing, you want to rinse this out very, very well, because if you wait that it dries and cakes up, man, it's really a pain in the butt to clean. And then down here, it drips all the way down into the lower chamber, right? This is the lower chamber. So there's a nozzle that comes down from the bottom here and then drips into here. And you end up with about, depending on how much you put in, and if we put 4,000 milliliters or cc's, we'll end up with about 3,500, 3,800, about a gallon, right? 1 gallon is 3.8 liters. And, so there it is. That's pretty much, oh yeah, I guess it's Taiwan here. Let's just Yama Taiwan. So that's pretty much the entire system. It's super, super easy to use. Very, very basic in many respects as far as what happens with it. Russell, what's going on, man? How are you? Good to see you. Power Plant's asking, do you know about ground control? I do know about ground control. They have that big orb on top of their brewer. Kind of cool looking, kind of expensive. I don't really know if that really does much, to be honest with you. But the OG is really quite sexy. And, it's kind of funny because I went to Blue Bottle in Brooklyn many, many years ago. I wrote about this in my blog. And I have a blog called onocoffee.blogspot.com, and you can find it. And basically, they had these at their Brooklyn shop. We ventured all the way out there. Worst espresso that I'd ever had up to that point. Like, absolutely just god awful espresso, but very good brewed. I had a brewed Burundi there that was very good. And they had like 4 of the OG the brewers that I really liked. But, this is where they had their roastery. And, like, if you knew what you were looking at, you would see these OGs were not in operation. Like, they partially had coffee in them, but they weren't brewing. They weren't doing anything. They were just there for looks. And they were brewing big, like, toddy brewers in the back. And I was like, these guys are just perpetrating a fraud. I was like, I was like, man, I made all this effort to leave Manhattan, to go to Brooklyn, just check out this place, and bad espresso, and perpetrating a fraud with the cold brew. I was like, I'm out of here, man. No respect for this. No respect for this. And then what else have I had? And then one time I was in this place in Honolulu, and this is why, this is the problem with like being in coffee professionally, is that you go to places and you kind of notice things that maybe most people wouldn't notice. So we go to this coffee shop in Honolulu. My cousin and one of my good friends, actually, who's a chef, a former chef, and we're like buying coffee. We go to this coffee shop and we walk in, they have this exact brewer. I've been using this brewer. I use this brewer for like since like we had it actually at the first Spro, which was like 2005, 2006. So I had one there, and so I've been using it a long time. So I really understand the operation of this and how you need to clean it. And this place, I got video of this. This is why it's crazy. This is the place that I was told you that I was like, hesitant. I haven't released the video because it's like, well, I don't really know if I should. But like this part here, the spiral was crusty. The inside was crusty because they didn't clean the machine. They didn't clean this brewer after many, many batches. It's just like the level of cleanliness and hygiene was so god awfully poor. Like it was disgusting. And you could taste it because that cold brew was like some of the worst cold brew I've ever had in this type of brewer. So I don't know. You have to be careful. You have to be respectful of your equipment. That's really, I guess, the point. Ground control can do pretty much any style brew to coffee that you want. On one of the field trips, you visited a nice cafe that had a ground control unit. It was in a sort of upmarket shopping center. I think I remember that place was that in Pennsylvania? It was in that little tiny like court. I don't think most people know how to use it, or most people utilize those kind of things, which is why I think that, when it comes to most operations, the Fetco or Bunn are perfectly fine, or even the Curtis. If you buy those three and they're like nice advanced brewers, you'll have perfectly good coffee. Like all that other stuff, I don't know if it's necessary. But we're going to make the coffee here. And so how does it work? Well, we're going to put water here, coffee here. Now I'm going to show you how we set this up in full scale. And so what we're going to do is we're going to brew 1 gallon of RTU, what we call ready to use cold brew coffee. And that's what we use this for. We would use this for RTU coffee. And then if we wanted to make extra coffee, we would actually use toddy systems and make concentrates, right? And those concentrates would be double strength, so that you basically mix it 1-to-1 with water and you would get your cold brew. Now this one we would brew and it would be full on, like ready to go, 1 gallon, which is probably, if you think about it, I could put in, this will hold double the amount of coffee. This will hold a full pound of coffee here and put a full gallon, and I could make a gallon of concentrate and have 2 gallons of RTU at the end of the day. We never did that because I like the idea of us. It was much just more of a statement than anything else. We wanted to brew the coffee to service strength, just because we were hardcore like that. And we maintain at Spro, we maintain 6 of these. So you'd walk in and like there would be 2 in the main room, and then you go to the back room and there was like a phalanx of 4 of them. Right? They were and when you had all 6 of them running, like, and you had your guests would come and they would look around and they'd be like, whoa, man, they got all these towers rolling. It was pretty awesome. Like it was epic. It was an epic way to present the coffee. And so we're going to put the coffee in here. So we're going to use 4,000 milliliters of water. And you could use, at Spro, we would actually use a mixture, probably about half and half, or maybe sometimes even 3/4 ice to water, liquid water. And we would do that by weight. So when you're using water, if you're using ice, you want to do it by weight. You can do volume otherwise, right? Like, so I prepared here 4 liters of water. But if I was doing and you can see here, I've got this Camtainer, and it's got at the 4 liter mark. So it's measured by volume in this case. But when it comes to ice, because water expands as it freezes, the volume changes. So you want to do that by weight. Because remember, weight of water is equal to volume. right? So volume of weight of water and weight of water equals. So 1 milliliter, 1 gram. We're going to put that in the top part, and then we'll make sure the valve is closed, and then we're going to fill the center chamber with coffee. In this case, we're going to use 260 grams. You can use 265. We do 260 just to save a little bit. You're not really going to notice that much difference. And then we're going to put it, what we're going to do is we're going to put one of the ceramic filters at the bottom, and then we're going to put a paper filter on top of the coffee bed to make sure that it is just evenly dispersion, right? Because sometimes, let's say your valve changes, right, or whatever, and your flow rate could change, and you don't want to bury a divot in your coffee, because then you could get it to just seep through. What you really want is an even spread of the water across the coffee bed so that all of the coffee gets saturated and becomes part of the extraction, right? That's a key component. And we use a paper filter to try to, cause even dispersion. And then it comes down, then drips down, and then into here, and then it takes about 12 to 16 hours, hopefully 12. You don't want to go too fast. You want to go just right. And here again, as with anything, it's always about resistance of the coffee to the water, right? So you don't want to go very coarse. You want to go, we always did like medium, like essentially the similar grind to what we'd use for pour over, because that would create enough resistance. Now you may be thinking, oh, you're controlling the flow rate, so why would you need to worry about resistance? Because you still want that resistance for the extraction, because you don't want it to go too fast, right? You don't want it to fill. You just want it to saturate the coffee and then just kind of slowly drip it down. And it will still, once it's fully saturated, it will drip at that rate. And what's the rate that we want? We want to do about 1 drip per second. Now, unfortunately, with this brass valve, it's difficult, right? And here's the problem with that is that, remember, we have 4,000 milliliters of water, which is 4,000 grams. So 4 kilos of water is pressuring down here. As the time goes by and the water flows through, this water weight becomes less and less. So the valve actually, the flow rate, the pressure of the flow through the valve changes, and it could slow down. So that's something that, you may have issues with once in a while, where you may have to, that's why we always had the baristas check every hour on the hour, to make sure that the flow rate is still running and time it, right? So a drip per second. Overnight, you just kind of like praying to God that it goes well. But usually about 12 hours is a good amount of time for that to flow through and to give you a nice quality brew. What else is there to talk about here? I mean, that's pretty much it. It's very simple to use, not very difficult. It just looks cool, right? Power Plant says, in my opinion, full immersion makes a better cuppa of cold brew. And I jury rigged a slow drip system a long time ago. It's the same principle, but using lab equipment. Tasted fine, but full immersion style, using my big soup bags. Oh, it's a totally different style. Absolutely. But one thing that we did, I was thinking about one point, was to try to get, and I never really put a lot of effort into this, but I wanted to get an IV drip machine, one of those like computerized drip machines, and use that as a way to like regulate the flow of the water into the coffee bed. So that way it could be timed perfectly, always a drip a second, right? Because you see, like, and I've spent some time in the hospital. So when you do that, you're like, oh, it was like 2013. I'm sitting there looking at my IV drip, like, I need that for my shop. But they're very expensive. Like, they're very expensive to buy new. And I never really put a lot of forethought into how to do that. And we had to change the rigging, whatever. But that's maybe one way to go for it. So let's make some coffee here. We're going to grind some coffee. We're going to use this coffee from Costa Rica, this Ixtubal, right? And we're going to open this up and have a look at our coffee. This should be a nicely kind of light roasted coffee. And that's something to consider when you're thinking about cold brew coffee. as always, the coffee matters, right? Because everything that you select, just like brewed coffee, it does, whatever you select will impact the way the coffee tastes. So buy something that you enjoy and try that. And here's the thing. We're going to do very large scale brewing on this, but you can ratio it out, right? We're still following the general scale of 2 grams for every finished ounce. Even though we're going to 260 grams, really we chose 260 because that's a little bit easier. It still is following the basic recipe that we use of 2 grams for every finished ounce, right? So if we're doing a gallon's worth of coffee, 128 ounces times 2 grams each is 256 grams. So it's still the same ratio. Right? And then even when we scale up for like double batch brewing at a pound, that's still almost the same, right? Because that's 453 grams in a pound. So, it's a bit less than our full scale, but it's close enough for deep immersion brewing. Okay, so we're going to look here. Costa Rica Ixtubal, right? In Arabic. This is roasted by Camel Step Coffee Roasters of Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Oh, this is what I like about the Saudi people and just Arabs in general. They are like lovers of natural processed coffees. They love that. It's so culturally ingrained into their world that they just love it. And these guys choose such beautiful, like there's beautiful tones of fruit, strawberry, cherry, like chocolate. Oh my God. That's good. All right. All right, let's have a look at some of the beans here. Like, as you can see, a little bit on the lighter roasted side. Actually, it looks pretty dark to you, but there we go. A little bit more lighter roasted, but that's kind of their style, right? Like Camel Step is a company in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia that is, very new school. They were kind of some of the early adopters of specialty coffee in Saudi Arabia. I worked with them for several years, and they're really a great company, really great quality coffee, great buying. But they do use lowering, so they're definitely in the lighter roasted category, on the scale of things, maybe kind of Tim Wendelboe-ish kind of roasting, but always like beautiful coffees. And you go there, and it's just everything is executed to such a high level of detail. And actually, most the Saudi specialty companies, Roasting House, onocoffee, and then like Sulalat and Camel Step, those companies, you go to their cafes, man, their baristas are sharp, like executing very, very highly. It's like, if you ever go to Saudi Arabia, it's well worth to explore the coffee scene there. And Boos is with us. What's going on, man? First time I had a chance to see and try one of these was at Temple Coffee Roasters in Sacramento 10 years ago. Sean is a great operator. Sean Commissioner is the owner of Temple. I've known that guy for many, 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 many years. Remember the OG shop in Temple? Yeah, that's good times. I only went there once because I only went to Sacramento one time, but I went by his shops to check it out. And their newer one had the pennies for the tile flooring. I love that. I love that touch. Andrew says it's 75 degrees in St. Pete. Doubles. Oh my God, man. We're not too far behind today, but it is kind of cloudy because it looks like it's going to rain. So we got a little bit of downside. Now we're going to have to do some jockeying around here. Let me get the grinder. We're going to use our, O Gen 2. Hopefully the O Gen 2 will not fail Gen 2. And then we need to, I know we need to, we're going to weigh it in this thing. So let me transfer it into something, into a medium to hold it. Maybe this is a better. Man, aroma is just so lovely. Like I'm a big fan of natural processed coffee, so this is very appealing to me. Okay, so we're just going to go to our scale. So we need a total of 260 grams, like it says in the recipe down below. You could go, 256. Again, you can make this at any volume that you want. I'm just going to show you at full scale. I was thinking, what am I going to do with all this coffee? I'm going to give it to some friends. But with the smell of this, maybe I'm not going to give it to anyone. I'm going to be very greedy with this and just hoard it. Oops. 261. Let's go back to 200. 260. Okay, there we go. 260. Nobody says, just got in the house. Which coffee use? I'm using this thing called the Ixtubal from Costa Rica. It's a Costa Rican coffee, but it's sourced and roasted by Camel Step Coffee in Saudi Arabia. Did I use the house? No, we actually used a separate cold brew. We actually made a separate cold brew with different selections. One of the big ones that we used for a long time was made for us eventually by the Mirish family in Nicaragua, in Matagalpa. And it started, I think I probably mentioned this coffee before, but we called it the Prola Negra. And the Prola Negra, we could call it that because it kind of had this milky, sweet character to it. And this is back in like 2014, I think it was. I was in Matagalpa, and we were at the beneficio at the mill of the Mirish family. And Eliane, she was like, we're doing a cupping, and she's like, I got something for you guys to try. I would like to get your feedback on. It's an experimental process we're just starting to play with this year. And we got some interesting results. And it was myself with Jeff Babcock from Zoka, Stephen Layton from Has Been, and Jack from Cafe Ladro. Actually, Jeff and I, never thought about it till now. Jack and Jay, we used to do buying trips together, and Stephen just happened to be at the farm at the same time. So we're doing this cupping, and she's like, "Try these coffees." And she had two versions of the coffee on the table. One had this really pungent, like deep, like blue cheese character to it, like super, like pungent. You're like, "Oh, what is this craziness?" Which I thought was really cool and interesting. Then there was this lighter one that didn't have that pungency, but it had a really deep sweetness. And as you cupped it and it cooled down, it became sweeter and started to have a milk kind of character to it. So she called it Perla Negra, the black pearl. I was like, we're going to call this the black cappuccino, because we would drink it and it'd be like, it's like milky sweet. It was so crazy. And turns out that was the early days of anaerobic fermentation, where they would take the coffee, pulp it, put it into rubber bladders to reduce the amount of air, during the fermentation process. And that was like some of the first generation of anaerobic. And I really love that. So they produced that for us for many, many years after that, for like 10 years, or not 10 years, till like 2021. And yeah, really great coffee. If we ever do another shop, I'll order more of that again. But that's what we used to have as our cold brew. We used that from like starting that started like 2015. So 2015 to like 2021 was only that coffee as our cold brew. And then before that, we would do like a kind of like a House Nation-ish kind of blend, but maybe a little bit more on the fruity side. Also like a plus roasted, like a city roasted coffee. Now we're going to do our changes here. So we were at 8 last time, and I don't remember, but I think it was okay. So we're going to add the coffee. Make sure this is centered. Booster says, that's the one I was at. Thousands of pennies on the floor, and they had a motorcycle. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, we know. I forgot what kind of bike it was, though. But I do like that. I like it when they have, you would really like, there's a place in Dubai called, Oh, what's that? Hey Siri, what's the name of the coffee shop in Dubai that has motorcycles?
You'll need to unlock your iPhone first.
Why? Hey Siri, what's the name of that coffee shop in Dubai with the motorcycles? Cafe Rider. Yeah. So if you ever go to Dubai, you will love Cafe Rider because you walk in and it's this expansive, like kind of warehouse space. They've got a coffee bar in the back, and they do nice quality coffees there. But they've got some seating area, they got some merch, they got a bunch of bikes, all kinds of cafe racers and sport bikes and stuff. And then on the left side, behind glass, is a bike repair shop. Like they're working on bikes. You would totally love it. Totally love it. I thought it was very cool. All right, so we're gonna grind some coffee. Now I don't know how much this will hold, but we're gonna probably have to do this in batches. Hopefully this will not clog again. That would be very irritating. Let's see where we are. We have put in now, there's 175 grams left. So we put almost 100 grams through this thing. Oh yeah, and it's pretty full. Like, look at that. It's pretty full. So we're going to put that into our container. Now, we're going to go here and pull this out. And like I said, we use this ceramic stone, goes in the bottom here, so it seats just like that. And then now we will take our coffee and we're going to pour that in here. Okay. And then as always, we just want to shake it up a little bit just to make sure that it gets, even. Now, don't shake it too hard. You don't want it to like be too volatile and then like this pops out, right? So be careful. We'll put that back here. I want to sit it back in here because there's actually a little chamfer that allows this to sit and lock in place. So it doesn't get too crazy. We don't want that to happen. All right, let's grind some more. We still got another 175 grams to grind. Did that just stop because it seized, or that stopped because it ran out of space? Hopefully the latter. Okay, let's try this again. See here what we're going to do. Shake, shake, shake. All good. Let's go back here. I mean, it stopped. It didn't sound like it seized. So hopefully. Very stressing with this. Can we go the whole way? We're going to go all the way. We just fought with danger. All right, all right. We got it all. All right. That's very, very pleasing. Powerplant says, yo, the gas prices of the States are looking crazy. It is. It is. All right, here we go. Add the coffee more. This is our last batch. So we're going to put that in here. And again, shake, shake, shake. We're going to use this air. I got an AirPress filter here. Actually, that's really small. It's been a little while since I've done this. Sometimes we will actually cut. Look at that. That's way too small. That's ridiculous. We're not going to use that. We're just going to have to do it the old school way. What that means is that we're going to take paper filter. Lucky I have scissors here. I'm going to take some scissors and we're just going to cut a circle. Now, you could take more time and do it more beautifully instead of my jagged the edges, but that should be fairly close enough, right? Like that's not, gosh, that's not a perfect circle, but it will be close. Let's see, how close are we? Is that close enough? That's close enough. Okay, make sure you want to get it as even as possible. And then we're going to place the filter down in there. Really, the filter is meant just to help disperse the water flow. Okay, so that's good. Let's go back. Now we're going to make sure that we make this stem and put it inside our spiral. And everything is nice and centered. Now, the tricky thing is to fill the water. This is always the most difficult part. So we would actually have a little stool that the baristas could stand on in order to refill this. But in this case, we're going to do it a little bit differently. There is a lid to protect the contents. And I've got the water here. Like I showed you, I got the water all ready to go. We're going to lift this out. This is the most dangerous part of the process, right? Now, I do have a little bit of a silicone pad here just to not put it on totally. This is not recommended, but we're going to fill it. Make sure you get both hands. Wow. I'm sliding it down with some tension on my fingers, but don't want to drop it on there because you could, it's 4 liters, right? So 4 kilos, you could break, if you dropped it really hard onto the lip, it could break the lip off completely. So you don't want to do that. Put the lid back on. Now we're ready to go. Everything's all ready. Let's have a look here with the camera so you can get a little bit of a closer view. So we've got water in here, so you can see the water is, there's the lid, right? We've got 4 liters of water. Now there's going to be some absorption, so we expect about 1 gallon of water to be remaining, or cold brew to be brewed tomorrow. Here's the valve. We're going to set that in a moment. And as you can see, we've got the filter paper on top of our coffee bed. Right, that's what we want. That's a nice looking bed. Look at that. Look at that coffee. It looks really, really nice. And then of course it'll pass through this filter here. And then down the stem into this spiral where it'll spiral, 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 and then drip down here into the lower orb. And that's going to be it. That's basically, so now it's time to sit here and figure out how do we get our, our second per minute, second per second, 60 drips a minute. Okay, so let's see here. We're going to twist this. I tend to, you could twist it either way, this way or that way. Maybe we'll do it this way. We're going to open it up and try to see what kind of drip rate we can get. Now, something that does worry me a little bit, like you can see this gap. I don't think it's going to come out, but there's always that possibility. Okay, there we go. One, two, three. It's a little bit fast. One, 1002, 1003. That's a bit fast. 1001, 1002. Okay, so there it is. Oh, look at that. You can even see. So as you can see, the filter paper is helping to disperse the water across the coffee bed. Now you could do some rotation with it if you wanted. Maybe even move it a little bit here to jockey it over some. So those are some techniques you could do. One thing that you could do is that you could use part of it and pre-saturate the water or the grounds with the water. I don't know if that's really a necessary thing. See, a little bit got wet there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Now we're just going to let that sit. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But just to get a preview for, now it's going to take all day for this to brew. So we'll try this tomorrow. But in the meantime, I thought we would try the coffee as a coffee. Right. So let's get to some brewing here. Power plant says gas here has gone up as well, but not that bad. Oh, nice. Do you drive there in Japan? I don't get a chance to drive very often in Japan because, I've only had it once, but that was a long time ago. And I was in Kanazawa, and a friend of mine, I was staying at a friend's house, and he's like, you could just use my car. I was like, awesome. He had a little teeny tiny like Toyota, and I'm driving on the right-hand side. But I don't know how it is where you are in Japan, but one thing that I remember the most that was kind of freaked me out a little bit was that in Kanazawa, they had the roads, they're roads, they're normal, but we here in America we have gutters. But I remember there the gutters were like exposed and they were deep. They were like that deep. You're like, I just remember looking at that like, man, if I miscalculate, I'm hosed. Hosed. All right, let's get some coffee here. We're going to use our same brew ratio. Oh, gosh. Oh, really? How's it? Oh, goodness. What is going on with me? Okay, zero this out. Lucy says, have to check it out one day after we clean up this mess that, oh, gosh, yeah. Like I have a friend of mine, she normally lives in Dubai. She went home to Thailand to take care of something, and now she can't get back. I don't know if I actually haven't talked to her in a couple of days, but she wants to go back. But it's like I told her, I'd much rather you be stuck in Bangkok than back in Dubai. Kent says, may I suggest brushing out the shoot on the ode after grinding? 260 grams of coffee will produce a big chunk of microfines. Using the knocker is not sufficient to keep it clean. Okay, good suggestion. Let's go look at this. Let's go look here. Oh man, I need to check the okay, there's our shoot. And here, look, I'm finally using the brush. All right, there we go. Hopefully that will be a viable solution. We're going to use the same grind setting that we're using here, just because we used that before. And then today we're going to brew that using one of my favorite brewers for pour over, and that is the Bee House. This is the Bee House. This is the style of brewer that we use most at Spro over the years. I know that a lot of people in my generation of coffee were really big into the Hario V60. We tried to get the Hario, but back then, Hario USA was really a pain in the ass to deal with. Like, I really hated dealing with them. Like, I was just like, God. So we tried dealing with them a couple times, and it was like, you know what? They were like, we need you to buy a pallet. We do with a pallet of anything. And I was like, you know what? That's just ridiculous. So I met Amy from Bee House. They're based in Stanford. They had an office in San Francisco, and they were so easy to work with. They had many different colors, really great to work with, a really nice quality brewer. And this is what I like about this brewer, right? So here's the thing. All of you are familiar with the V60. The V60 has that big orifice. And I think that for home brewers, this is the better choice, right? This requires less attention to detail. The V60, because it's got that big orifice, you really have to pay attention to how much you're flowing your water. You really have to be under control of that. You just can't be a little bit cavalier about it. I mean, you can, but then it's going to go too fast. Where this, because of the double hole restrictors, allows a good amount of flow, but also allows you to not have to pay so close attention. And I think that's a really great feature. The wedge shape is fine. I like the ribbing. I mean, the quality of this is, it's Japanese made, so very nice quality and very reasonably priced. Like what was it? The V60s back in the day I remember them being pretty expensive. These were always very affordable. Like my customers, for whatever reason, like even though we were like the fancy coffee shop, people were always very budget conscious, right? Like we had the Bonavitas, which were $65. We sold like maybe one or two of those. Like nobody wanted to pay $65 for a brewer, but $20, $30 for a brewer, you could sell them all day long. That was really a nice price point and really great people to deal with. Like I could buy a case or two at a time and not have to have like a place to store pallets worth of cases. Peter says, could we do a cold drip versus cold brew? And what's the difference or big deal with both methods? Tell me more. We can still make that change. But the thing about cold, and I'm not sure what you mean by cold drip. So it's, make it let me know what you mean by cold drip, because, for me, any kind of low temperature brewing necessitates longer periods of extraction, which if you're trying to do a coffee in 4 minutes or 10 minutes, total preparation time, I have not seen a cold brew or low temperature brew method that has produced anything worth drinking. Well, it's all worth drinking at some level, but anything truly remarkable in a short period of time. So let me know what you think, and I will hold off for a moment from brewing. Power Plant says the GOP coping over the Iran war, is so cringe and pathetic, and a long line. Where'd it go? Over a long line of cringe and pathetic. Oh, well, that's their stock in trade, I think. Peter says, I just submerged grounds in a French press overnight, but unless this method is okay. Oh, gotcha. Okay. I thought you meant for now. Okay, we can definitely do that. Let me grab a French press over here. Where this is going to be different, Peter, is in the finished product. Generally speaking, I think this is definitely cleaner of a process. Where this is going to vary is, I think this will be a more heavier bodied brew. But I also think that we're going to have heavier notes also because the French press does not have the same level of filtration as something like that, right? Or let's say a toddy. A toddy is going to be very clear or relatively clear compared to something like this. But we'll try it. We'll make this. Let's go back here. And this will be good, like head to head. We're going to do same brew ratio, 24 grams for 350 milliliters. I have dropped a couple beans. I must save them because this is actually really beautiful smelling coffee. And then now we're going to go all the way coarse on the grinder. .7. Why does that say 48? Oh, because there's two. We're two. Okay. Right. I was wondering. It looked like there was a lot of coffee in there. Whoops. Oh, come on. There we go. 24.3. What is 24.3? And then we've got 350 grams of water. Okay, 355.3. Make sure that all of that is. And I'm going to use this here, the plunger, just to seat the coffee in the water bed. Okay, there we go. Now it's totally submerged. And I'm going to set this aside. We'll come back this tomorrow and see how that does. And then now, time for our coffee. So we've got our Hario types kettle. We've got our bee house. And I just need to grab a Power Plant says, I do drive on the freeway and expressways. Okay, good. I hope you weren't driving on the right-hand side. I was driving. Oh, yeah, no. I was driving on the left-hand side. Yeah, because, you're kind of driving and you're like, and then there was stick shift. So it's like, and I was like, oh, turns out that the pedals are the same and the shift pattern is the same. So you just got to get used to doing the other side. Power Plant says, it's a lot more expensive to drive here in Japan than in the States. More license fees, maintenance fees that are extremely. Oh, I was thinking about maybe doing a trip to Japan where I would go and do a tour and a car tour. I would love to do that. Okay, so let's Look closer. There we go. Tear that out. Now we're going to add our coffee. 24.3 or 24.4, good. Shake, shake, shake. So that's all nice and even. Just waiting for the water to boil now. Do you back in the parking spaces? I got real good. Oh, Russell's asking, there is no law, right? But everyone does it? Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a thing there. Most newish cars have the 360 bird's eye camera now, so it's easier these days. And it's more social etiquette. Oh, interesting. If you parked head in, would people give you the stink eye? By the way, that stink eye is a very local Hawaii saying. I really don't hear anyone saying that anywhere else. It's kind of funny. Like, it's funny. Like, it's funny how you can like notice like local people doing certain things that just kind of alert you. Like in the woodworking world, in the Festool world, right? There's this guy Garrett. Garrett Sato is his name. He works for Festool. He's one of the big trainers there. But I remember like when one of the guys who used to do their live stream was talking about Garrett. He mentioned Garrett, and I was like, Garrett. The only Garretts I've ever known were either in the movies or guys from Hawaii. Like, I don't know what it is, but Garrett was a popular name. I don't know. What do you think about that, Russell? I still park head first when I need to run into a place, but no, there is no shame from other people. Oh, okay, that's good. It's more like when you see everyone doing it one way, you do it too. Okay, gotcha. All right, we're going to use our Kogu kettle and fill it up with the boiling water. Did you say that the speed limit on the national highway is 50 kilometers? 50 on the big highways? It's 50? That seems a bit crazy. All right, let's hit our timer there, and then now we begin. We're going to go to 85 grams. For some reason, I don't know, I just feel like I poured out a whole ton more coffee than I was expecting to, but I didn't. Strange. Dripping water on grounds versus immersion of grounds, says Peter, but with the French press, you could still pour into a paper filter. You can. The only thing that I found with that is that when you pour into paper filters, like let's say we were to take that French press, I found the best results were always if you took, like I would scoop out, maybe we'll do this tomorrow. I would scoop out that coffee and put it in first, because if you just pour it straight, you start to run out of, like it starts to clog the filter almost immediately, because what you're pouring is really the smallest of sediments, and that just tends to clog. So it's like, so you just sit there waiting, like you get this first rush of like, oh, it's going to be fast, and then you're sitting there watching it drip slowly, and the life energy is just draining out of you. It's like, ah. So here's our really nice aromatics coming off of this, like flow rate's pretty good. We are slowly a little bit behind with probably because of my talking. Naomi says she loves a stick shift, and Peter's up for a tour, a road tour. Let's go, man. Let's go. I told my friend Chiaki I would come and and drag her along with me, so she could translate. Power Plant says I've driven to or through almost every prefect. Oh, that's awesome. Have you been up to Fukushima? Like I'm curious to like see it. Power Plant says, during COVID, I drove everywhere. Oh, that's awesome. Peter says, COVID was minimal. Really? Where were you during COVID? Yeah, COVID was 6 years ago. I remember when COVID was coming out. Like, I remember back in December of 2019, I started reading reports about the outbreak. Oh, yeah, we're kind of slow. And I just started following it. And I remember in February of 2020, like mid-February, I should have noticed to my staff, and I said, hey, it looks like there is a pandemic brewing. It looks like there's an epidemic brewing. And in other nations, they had shut down operations in response to it. And I said, if that's happening there, I only expect it to be a matter of time for it to happen here in the United States. And I should have noticed everyone to make sure to tell them, like, hey, keep this in mind, because if we get shut down, and there's no way to, like, there'll be no revenue. So we'll be on hold for however long. And they need to prepare for that and to keep that in mind. So don't go buck wild with your earnings. And it made me think about it because the other day a friend of mine was posting on his Facebook. He's like this is right before it happened. He was like, who knew? No one knew back at this time 6 years ago. I was like, well, I knew. Like, I was paying attention. I mean, maybe I was paying attention because I traveled a lot. But it was like, come on, man. Not. You could see the writing on the wall, no matter who's in the White House pretending that nothing's happening. Oh, the national highway is free and usually okay. So kind of like our parkways and kind of not like our interstates here. Gotcha. The expressway costs money and has a higher speed limit, about 70 kph. 70 kph. What? I don't drive 70 kph on side roads here. 70 kph. I guess there's a lot of like police and like, I don't know, do they have a way of detecting if you're like speeding, and what kind of penalties do you get? Maybe I'll have Chiaki drive, because man, I'm going to be like racking up tickets. I got a ticket once when I was in, what was it, in Florence. I was in Florence one year, and I guess I was driving a car because I didn't have a choice. I mean, I had a car, so I was driving, and Florence evidently is highly regulated as where you can drive on most days. I didn't know any of this. So I drove through the center or wherever I drove, and about a year later, like almost a year later, I get a notice in the mail from Italy, and they're like, you owe us 150 euros in fines for your driving. And I looked it up on the internet. I was like, how long is a statute of limitation? They're like, it's a year limitation. I was like, forget. Come get me. I was like, that's ridiculous. Either charge the rental company and get my credit card to charge it, and I'm not going to worry about it, but I'm not going to go out of my way to pay it. I was like, call me a criminal if you want, but ooh, nice aromatics, very nice, like fruit tones. Proplan says, I drove around Fukushima, went to Sendai, and then around Fukushima to Iwate. Not even going to come to risk anything with radiation. I don't know if it's like, would it? Goodness. The noise you probably heard was the magnet clicking onto the metal container for the ode. All right, let's do some brewing here. This is one of our cups from the old Cafe du Spro. I like these old Noritake china. We would serve coffee in something like this. Peter says, I'm a stealth camper. I sleep in the car. Nice, nice. Along the expressway, they have rest stops and I was watching. There's a girl on YouTube. Her channel is called What the Pato, and her name is Patricia O'Connor. She's a Chinese American girl, like half Chinese, half American. Grew up in Japan. Her father's like stationed, based there, and I really enjoy her videos. She does all these videos about like things in Japan, and she made this one video where she was talking about how there's an expressway like stop restaurant that's supposed to be wildly famous, and people drive there to try out the food. It looked really good. She said that the food is very good at like rest stops. Oh, there's some bitterness. Actually, the bitter is very forward. Fruitiness. I wonder, maybe it's just too. Maybe that bitterness is coming. Maybe it could be a little bit coarser. Would tone that down. But this will be a good baseline to consider for tomorrow. We got 2 brews to try tomorrow, so. Peter says, I work with radiation, so I'm beyond. Peter will be out there in Fukushima in the middle of it all, sleeping in the car. So no problem. No problem. His little badge will be beeping, but no big deal. Jeremy says, I need to be a good boy. All right. That's why I need to like. And if you drove in Japan without a license, oh yeah, that's right. In Japan, you need to get the international drivers. Oh, which reminds me, I have to renew my driver's license this month. But usually when I travel, I get the international permit. Actually, that kind of mucked me up one year. I was in Tokyo, and I was like, ooh, I can go do the Mario Karts. And then they're like, you need to have your like international permit. I was like, darn it, I forgot that. I forgot to get it that year. Peter says, I got hit with a speed camera in the UK. Hire car took the money off my credit card. I'm suspicious because I wasn't speeding. I used to, but I might be working with lead dust with a hint of rain. That's always fun. And Power Plant says Japan has a 99%. I read that because I was well, not read it. I watched a video where they were talking about they don't bring they in Japan, evidently the courts will not charge you unless they are guaranteed to win. Like they will not. I guess it's maybe the losing face thing. Like, so if you're getting charged in Japan, like you're kind of like hosed. Like what happened with that one vlogger, the one that was making all the problems, the Ethiopian looking guy from America? Power Plant says if you were arrested, you were going to prison. That guy should go to prison. Makes it hard for like YouTubers like us that want to do nice work. All right, well there it is. Oh, we need to adjust. Just check the adjustment. Right, so I just touched it just a little bit. It could be perhaps already just that little bit of water that has flowed through, transferring the weight out of the upper chamber has changed that flow. But it's on the way. So I'll be checking it throughout the day. And then tomorrow, we're going to do some grand tasting to see how it all flows together. Nobody says Japanese prison scares me. All prison scares me. Like, I don't know if I'd want to be in prison anywhere. Oh, Peter says, I think he's in Korea. And they can do this forever until you consent. Ah, gotcha. Oh, they hold you for 90 days, then slap you with a trumped up charge to hold you for. I thought they arrested that guy from that's in Korea now. I know several guys who went to prison in Japan. They say it was nice. Oh, compared to, I don't know. I'd rather not find out. All right. That's it for today. Thank you very much for tuning in. Always good to see you. Back again tomorrow. We're going to have 2 more coffees, see how these all turned out. The Tower, Peter's Cold Brew Immersion Press Pot, and then we'll compare it to how this feels cold. I'm just going to let this sit here all night long, let it chill down, and then we'll come back and do some tasting and see just what kind of variances we may find and that kind of thing. All right, so have a wonderful day out there. You too, Mom. Never says I'm a rule follower, but yeah, but you're Japanese, so that's kind of normal. It's good. You don't want to be in prison. And Peter says American prison is scary. Don't try. Yeah. All right. Have a great one, and see you next time.